Okay, where did I get these questions? Star tests. These are last year's star tests too. So that's the first thing that we've been looking at is the ones from last year. Because remember, last year they kind of had those new types of questions. Still a lot of multiple choice on the online version of the STAR, but they did have the new ones where it was like free response or like some drag and drop stuff. So you'll kind of start to see that like sprinkled throughout warm-ups because we just want you to make sure that you are aware of what that stuff can look like. Both of these questions are like ones that I love to see on the STAR. Okay, they're so easy to get right, but you gotta know the vocab. Okay, there's not a lot of mathing to be done, but you have to be able to know the vocabulary to know what the question is asking, and then be able to answer it appropriately. These are also questions I think that you're gonna kind of see. We've got some multiple choice on your test, which is next week. Okay, so you might want to star these because I like these. These are kind of good ways that we can really see, again, do you know that vocab? Do you know what stuff is? So they said the graph of a linear function f is shown. So they drew a line for you. There it is. They named it f. Beautiful. What is the zero of f? This is what makes this question hard, I feel like, is the vocab. Do you know what a zero is? We do. That's an x-intercept. So I would write that above. And that's not going away. We're going to continue to call these guys zeros or roots or solutions. All of those mean x-intercepts. If you don't know that vocab word, though, this question becomes, I kind of have to guess. So look at your line. How many x-intercepts are there? 1. X-axis. Check where I'm crossing. I'm going to put a point right there. If this was online, I might mark it on my graph if I can, or use my mouse to point to it or something. And what is that x value?
2.
Just at 2. Now, they did not write that as an ordered pair. I'm going to want you to write it as an ordered pair, but the STAR test, do whatever they say, or however they write it. Okay, so just for practice, what is that ordered pair? In case I gave you this as a free response. 2, 0. Because for every x-intercept, what is the y value? Always, always, always. 0. Okay, very good. All right, and then this one, another graph of a linear function shown. What are the x-intercept and the y-intercept? So this one kind of used straightforward vocab, but it's asking for both of them. Even though this is multiple choice, they do some tricky things. People sometimes flip ordered pairs and write them in the wrong order, or they look at the wrong axis. They made all of those possible answer choices. So honestly, I think I would maybe go grab my 2 points. Again, I'm just going to mark them on my graph first, and maybe just try to do it without my answer choices, and then I'll match them up. Okay? So what is my x-intercept? Ordered pair. -2. 0. And then what was my y-intercept? X value is always 0. Y value is +8. And then I might go say, okay, which answer choices match that? Which one does?
C.
Is it? Yeah, C. Right there. But do you see how tricky they kind of made those points? Some of them might be totally wrong. D 4-0, there's nothing at 4-0. But they flip-flop the order of the x and y. They might flip-flop where the 0 is. Those are all common mistakes. And sometimes with multiple choice, they put those common mistakes as answer choices because they're tricky and they're mean. Okay? But it is what it is. We got to know how to do it. What do we feel about these? Good? Pretty easy? On our test, we think we can get those right?
Yeah.
Picking intercepts from tables and graphs is something that will be on your test. The tricky thing with those is picking them from the equations. But we're going to keep practicing that today. So like I said, today is kind of the day that we're going to put kind of everything together. So let's look at what's to come. I'll see y'all Friday. Friday will be a review day. We will kind of take a little quick check for understanding, see how we're doing on this lesson. And then we've got a review. I think I've got a little activity thing we can do before we get the review. And then your test is going to be next week, Tuesday for y'all. After the weekend. I think I'm going to try to get a little quizzes warm-up thing because y'all did pretty well with that last time. Just gave you a little something to work on for first few minutes of class, so I'll try to make that and put that up there as well. Quick reminder, if you're retesting Unit 2, today's second half of lunch, tomorrow morning, or second half of lunch. Remember, today's Wednesday, so lunch is 10 minutes back. So if you show up at 12:45 and I'm not here, it's because I have 10 more minutes of lunch and I will be here at 12:55. Okay? Got it?
Do we come at 12:55?
Come at 12:55. Yeah. I know it says 45, but Wednesdays are the weird days. So 45 tomorrow, 55 today. Yeah, because advisory period. Which means we have 5 less minutes of class today. So we got to make sure we're here.
Wait, what time do we get out today?
25. We'll be fine. This lesson's not super long. I think today will kind of be a good catch-up day, especially if we're behind on Delta Math. I haven't looked at that. I'm kind of scared. Did y'all do your homework on Delta Math?
I have
Of course you did. Did you do your homework on Delta Math? No. Did you do your homework on Delta Math? Okay, this is why I'm scared to look at it. So let's try to knock out the notes. I have this practice sheet. We may not do all of it today, but there are some word problems on here that I think are worthy. And then we'll just kind of try to catch up Delta Math for life. Okay? All right. Some vocab. This is, again, not really much new stuff. This is more about just like putting it together. Why do we need to know these key features? Why are they important? How do we use it? We're going to talk a little bit about slope-intercept form. And then really the meat of today's lesson is going to be about like real-world application with some of these. But we kind of got to talk through like this form and what it means before we get to the real world. Okay? So our vocab word that we kind of already know, so this is a recap, is slope. But what's the other name for slope? Rate of change. We got to know all of that. Rate of change, which is AKA your slope, what letter do we use for slope? So on your formula chart. Slope of a line, what is it equal to? What letter? M. Okay, they call it M. I don't know where they got M, but we just roll with it. So M is always our slope. It is the rate at which the line is increasing or decreasing. We spent a whole lot of time talking about how to find the slope. We're going to be doing that again today. We got our formula, our 2 points, all that good stuff. That is like the most important thing that you have to be able to write equations of lines. We're going to be writing equations of lines for the next like 2 to 3 units. And we are always going to have to start by needing that rate of change and that slope, no matter what we have. When we do these kind of real world applications, there's a couple words that you'll see that are like reminding you, hey, this is the slope. I don't know why there's 4 blanks because I only know 3. But maybe we'll find another one day and then we can write it in there. But the big one is per. Okay? And we kind of saw this when we did domain and range. They would say, like, they charge $2.50 per hour. And I was saying, like, hey, that means you've got to put the variable next to that number. The number that is our slope. Okay? We didn't know that yet, but now we do. And we'll talk about that today. So per blah, blah, blah. That number will be your slope. They can also say, like, for every. Sometimes you'll see word problems like that. It costs $2 for every bag of chips. Okay? So for every, $2 is going to be our slope. Or sometimes it says each. And those are the 3 that I knew. I don't know about the other one. We'll put a question mark there. Maybe we'll find one. Each bag of chips costs $2. So that's kind of like the giveaway that, hey, that number that's coming up is going to be my slope. And slope is a number, okay? In your, the other vocab word we talked about last time was the y-intercept, one of them. Y-intercept, which I don't know that we looked at this letter, but the letter that they call the y-intercept is B. And it's the starting value or the initial value. I'm going to underline both of those because when it comes to bringing this into context, you kind of got to know like which one goes with your slope. It's going to have one of these words by it. Which one goes with your y-intercept. And that's going to be your starting value or your initial value. In a story, a lot of times it's like your fixed cost. Y'all remember seeing that? Or like your initial fee. When we look at stories, which we're going to get there. We're going to get to some word problems, but we kind of got to talk through some other stuff first. Okay, so that will be an indicator that, hey, like I only have to pay this like one time. Or I start with like this much money in my account. There's not going to be a variable by that because it's only happening like one time. And that's your y-intercept. Okay, all right, and then big idea, slope-intercept form, the most useful form. Find this on your formula chart. Find this on your formula chart. And I'm hoping that you have seen this before. Do y'all see it on your chart? Okay, it's all in that. We're all in this linear equation chunk right now. So we've done slope of a line. We're going to keep doing that today. And then 2 steps up is slope-intercept form. You need to be able to know what that is based on how it's written. You need to know what those letters mean, okay? So they kind of wrote it out for you. You can tell something is in slope-intercept form because it is in y equals form. This is the most useful linear form that we have because what button do you have at the top left of your calculator? Y equals. So when we're in that form, we can go here and we can graph it, we can table it, all the things. So that's why this is like hugely important to be in slope-intercept form. Also, your slope-intercept form is going to tell you 2 things. They're in the name. What is the name? Slope-intercept. So what are the 2 things that you can visibly see in that equation? The slope and the, now it's only the y-intercept. So you got to remember that. It's only the y-intercept that you can see in there. And then she pointed them out to you. Your slope is the letter M. That has not changed. It's right next to x. It's the number next to x, okay? And then the B value is your y-intercept. It is the number that is by itself. By itself starts with a B. No variable by it, okay? So you should be able to look at an equation and tell me, boom, boom. Here's an example. Let's do this. Y equals 1/2 x minus 7. Is it in slope-intercept form? Is it in y equals? Yes, it is in slope-intercept form. What is the slope? 1/2. M equals 1/2. What is the y-intercept? -7. Very good. Okay, so I can just look at it and it tells me those 2 things, which we spent a lot of time figuring those out. So that's why slope-intercept form is great because, again, you can look at it and you can find it. So being able to write in this form is something really important in Algebra 1 because, again, we want to get to that y equals. We want to be able to use our calculator. We want to know these things. And we need to know how to write in slope-intercept form from all this information. So we need the 2 things that are in the name. We need the slope and we need the y-intercept. So we're going to kind of do like one of these with me. Y'all do one on your own, okay? So looking at this graph, if I want to write the slope-intercept form of this graph, I need my checklist. I need my slope. I need my y-intercept. Which one's easier to just grab out of the graph? Y-intercept. What is it? 6. Okay, and I'm okay if you guys don't do the ordered pair in this because when we put it in the formula, we're just using the actual y value. But I will tell you on the test, I'm going to have you write in ordered pairs like on that section. So just make sure you're being careful with that. So we can grab the number 6. I'm going to go ahead and write the ordered pair to the side. But we're actually just going to use that y value because, again, that number is our b. Okay, and we can just grab that real quick. But the other thing that we need the slope. Okay, how many points do you need when you find slope? 2 points. We did this 2 days ago. So I want to find, like Coach says, what do you call them? Perfect points?
Perfect points.
Perfect points. So I want to follow my line, and I want to find a point that's going to kind of land where my little grid lines cross. I want to use whole number points. I don't want to guesstimate here. Okay? So I'm just going to follow my line, and I'm probably just going to find one kind of close to it. So I'm decreasing, and then look at what happens right here. Y'all see what I'm pointing at? Is that a perfect point? Is it on whole numbers?
Yes.
Yeah. Is there another perfect point?
Yes.
Yeah, but you get to choose which one you want. I always just try to go close to it to make life easier. So what perfect point did I choose? 1, 4. Okay? What's another perfect point? Just in case, make sure we can grab some. 2, 2 is a good one. Is there an x-intercept that's a good one? 3, 0, that is a good one. Okay, but you just need 2 points. And then, quick refresh, we'll do this one together. I'm going to label, because we always label, x1, y1, x2, y2, and then I'm going to slope it. Okay, we've been doing this for 3 days. So this is something that, again, we've been doing over and over and over again. It's all over this unit. Okay, your slope formula. We write before we type. Go to your chart, because it's there. It tells you how to plug in. What was my y2? 4 minus. Remember, the formula has to have the minus sign. What was my y1? That's x2. 6 over x2 minus x1, 0. Y'all, the labels are a game changer. Okay? It is so easy to just label it, put them on there. You just have to do it. Do not be lazy. Do not be lazy. Not in algebra. We don't do that. Okay? And then we can slope it. 4 minus 6, 1 minus 0. And what is our slope? M equals -2. Okay, so it took some work to grab that information from the graph, but once we are there, we can go straight to our slope-intercept form. Watch me. Slope is M, -2. Y-intercept B is 6. Slope-intercept form. Y equals, what's our M? -2. What goes next to M? What's our B? What kind of 6? So I'm going to put plus 6. And that's my slope-intercept form. So easy. Boom, boom. We okay? Okay, y'all try this one. Okay, our y-intercept is right here. It's -1. I'm going to write that as an ordered pair there because I need my 2 ordered pairs to do my slope. What other perfect point did y'all choose? -3, -2, because he went, okay. So -3, -2. I like this. It's going to make you practice with your negatives. Do your labels. X1, Y1, X2, Y2. The slope is usually going to take the longer part there. Okay, so follow your formula. And y'all, look at the formula chart. I don't just hand this out for like you to have pretty pink paper on your desk. Use it. Especially if you're getting your formula flip-flopped, there is no reason for that. It is right here and it tells you what always has to go on top. Changing the y's. -2 minus -1. You have to have minus negative. That's the point that I used.
You may have used a different one.
If you use,
You did 3, 0.
that's
Yeah,
then
that's fine.
let's
You
just
should
check
get the
our.
same answer.
You should get the same answer.
Oh, okay. I was confused.
Yeah. Anya picked this point, so I just went with it. But I also like practicing with the negatives too. But if it were up to me, I would try to avoid the negatives. We'll be good. Okay? Throw it in. Make sure y'all practice with these negatives because it is going to be on your test. -3 minus 0.
I forgot.
1/3.
Yeah.
So my slope is 1/3. And y'all, slope is just a number. Just a number.
Oh, yeah, you got a minus.
Now, how do you put it into the equation?
Y equals 1/3 minus 1.
1/3 x minus 1. Very good. Okay? So when you go to the equation's got to have the y and the x. Very good. Okay? All right, let's try this one. We're going to skip this one, this last one, but I want to do this bottom left. I think you're going to like this one. Write a function of a line in slope-intercept form. What is slope-intercept form? Y equals mx plus b. This is honestly like the most algebra thing ever. Like if you ask your parents, what do you know about algebra? They're probably going to say y equals mx plus b. Because that's like the basis. Okay? Okay, let's look at what we got. We've got a line with a slope of -1/2 and a y-intercept of 7. Do we have to do any math on this problem? What is the slope?
-1.
Okay, write it down. We didn't have to slope it. They told us. Woohoo. What's the y-intercept?
7.
All right, what's your slope-intercept form?
Y equals
-1.
-1/2 x plus 7. Boom, done. Boom, done. Okay? We're going to skip this other question because we will go over this later, and it's just going to take too much time. Okay? Flip. All right, let's try a table, and then we're going to get into the word problem. So we're still doing the same thing. We want to write in slope-intercept form. We need the M, we need the B. Okay? Which one is quicker to find first? The M or the B? Which one was quicker here? B. Which one's going to be quicker in the table? B. Slope means you have to use that formula, so that's always going to take more time. I would grab the y-intercept. Where do the y-intercepts happen? When the x value is 0. So look at your table. Find the x value of 0. What's the y value? 9. What does this mean right here? Look at your table. It says f and x, f of x. What is f of x the same thing as? Y. That's not going to freak us out. It's not going to slow us down. Okay? So it still is, my inputs are on the top, my outputs are on the bottom. So here's my y-intercept. Check. All right, now we have to find the slope. How many points do we need to find the slope? 2. Let's use 0, 9 as x1, y1. What's going to be the easiest to make x2, y2? The ones next to them. x2, y2. All right, slope it. Follow your formula chart. And right before you type, Daniel, right before you type. This is how I want to see it on the test. We got to practice like we're going to play. And there are lots and lots and lots of times that our slope may not be a nice, pretty whole number. Okay? And we like fractions. We're okay with fractions. Y'all get a fraction on this one?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's looking like it. What fraction did we get?
916. Wait, hold on. Oh, I put it in backwards.
Did you write it before you type it?
Nope.
That's probably why. Write it before you type it. I need to make a big poster that says that right before you type. 12 over 5 is our slope. 9 is our y-intercept. So slope-intercept form, put it together.
Y equals 12 over 5x plus 9.
Very good. Okay? All right, you got a table to do. You do it. What's our slope?
Y equals
What-
negative
What's our slope? Our slope, negative 17. What's our y-intercept?
4.
What's our slope-intercept form?
Y equals negative 17 minus 4.
Very good.
Minus 4.
Minus 4. Okay, sometimes people do like to write, because technically slope-intercept form is mx plus b. You could write plus negative 4, but I think it's simpler to just do minus 4. If that y-intercept is negative, I just put a minus in front of it there. Okay, so what I liked about this was it's getting us really comfortable with our equations in slope-intercept form, because that's a big deal. But it's also like reinforcing those lessons that we've done the past 2 days, because if y'all look, let me go back to Canvas Counter real quick here. This next test that you take next week is 3 grades. The first grade is just slope. So I'm going to be giving you like find the slope, ordered pairs, find the slope, graph, find the slope, table. All those things that we practice on these first couple problems, that is going to be its own test grade. Okay? Then I'm going to be asking you all about intercepts. Find an intercept from a graph. Find an intercept from a table. The only thing we did not review in this lesson was finding intercepts from equations, and that's definitely the hardest part, but we'll practice on that because I think some of y'all are behind on your delta math, so we'll have some time hopefully today to practice that. And then the third part is going to be about the real world stuff. So we're about to start that now on the next part of our notes and then on this little extra sheet here. And then I've got some good delta math problems that are quick. The real world typically is kind of quick stuff, but it's more just about like what does it mean in the story. So let's now shift our mind. We're going to words. We're not scared of words. We're just going to go through and we're going to find our keywords and we're going to interpret it. And when it asks about like what does it mean, we just have to think about what does it mean in the story. Okay, that's kind of the whole idea is understanding the story. Are y'all ready to do word problems?
Yeah.
Here we go. Let's look at our first guy. Lynn, I don't know. Lynn is tracking the growth of her plant for a school science project that's due in 6 weeks. Okay, so we're talking about plants, talking about the height of the plant. So what's going on? The plant grows 2 inches each week. I'm going to circle this word, each. And I'm going to circle the number 2. What were some of the 3 that I only could think of? Key words about slope. Was each one of them?
Yep.
Okay, so what is that kind of telling me right there?
That's the slope.
2's got to be my slope. Okay, we'll write that down in a second. The flower was 4 inches tall when Lynn planted it. So that number is something else. But that was the height when she planted it. At the beginning. That was the starting. That is your B, your y-intercept. Given the information, answer the following questions. So remember slope. We're looking for those key words. There it is, each. What number did it grow each week? 2. So my slope is 2. Okay, what does that mean in the story? The plant grew how much? 2 inches each week. It's literally like in the story. Okay, but that's what it means. That's the rate that it's growing by. Okay, what is the y-intercept? The initial height, which was 4. So what does it mean? Plant was initially, how tall? 4 inches. Okay, so we've got to be able to grab those numbers and use our key words and interpret which one goes with which. So how do I write an equation for that? You know your slope. You know your y-intercept.
Y equals 2x plus 1.
2x plus 4. Donezo. Do you want to do a little extra bonus work on this?
Yes. No.
What if I tell you that it would be worthy because you're going to have to do it on the test? I think we should do it. We'll just do it on this one. Just do it on this one. Okay? Are we okay so far? Being able to, yes. If you're asking out of the bathroom, no. Okay? Not yet. Heidi already asked. All right, so can we get to here? This is the most important part. Can you get to this slope-intercept form?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, we use our words. We got to put x next to the slope. Y-intercept, there's no variable by that because that's just like one-time only thing. Here's what I'm also going to ask you to do on the test. I'm going to ask you to find the x-intercept and the y-intercept. Okay, now guess what? One of these is very easy because which one do we already know? We already know the y-intercept. Okay, we wrote it. We wrote it down. So what is our y-intercept? As an ordered pair? 0, 4. Algebraically, why does that happen? When do y-intercepts happen? When x is 0. I'm going to write this out. If I replace in my slope-intercept form, we did this last class. If I replaced x with a 0 in my equation, 2 times 0 goes away, and I get y equals 4.
No,
Algebraically, that backs this up. Okay? But we also knew it from the story. So don't miss that one. This one's not so easy. Okay? Takes a little more work, but we can do it. All right? So the x-intercept. When does an x-intercept happen? When y is 0. Let's go ahead and set up that framework. But now we got to go to our equation. And where are we going to sub in the 0? For the y. We did this. 0 equals 2x plus 4. Okay? What are we solving for? Draw your line. You're right. solve the equation. It just takes a little more work. We got to subtract the 4 on both sides. Bye-bye. 0 minus 4 is?
-4.
Running out of room.
Negative 4 divided by 2x.
Not divided by 2x, just divided by 2. Just the numbers. So divide both sides by 2. Negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. And that would be my x-intercept. So I am going to expect you to be able to find the intercepts from a slope-intercept form. Write it in slope-intercept, then find them there. And again, the y-intercept should be pretty easy because you already knew it from the story. It's the x-intercept that does not. I'm also going to want you to put those on a graph, but those are nice, pretty points, and we could do that. Does an x-intercept of negative 2 make sense in the story? If you were to graph this, what would your x-axis represent? I don't have room here. Ugh. If you were driving this, let's think about, if you were drawing this, let's think about this story, okay? It's kind of an extension for you. You're talking about the flower's height. So the height depends on how long it's been alive. So our height would be our y, time would be our x. In real world, do we have negative time? No. So does this really make sense in the story? No. But is it a part of the function? Yeah. So it's kind of, this is what we're getting to, is being able to reason through that logic of like, how do you just like find it? That's a big part. But also, how do you interpret that? Okay? All right, let's try another word problem, and then we'll brain break real quick before we do our, I've got a couple more word problems that are good. We're going to talk about Kennedy's cell phone. Yeah? Okay. All right, Kennedy needs to buy a new phone. She needs to save $1,100 for the phone. She starts with $20 saved up. During the month of October, she saves $5 per day. So after 3 days, she's saved $35. After 7 days, she has $55 saved. If X represents the days she's been saving and Y represents the total money she has saved. There's a lot of stuff in there. There's a lot of numbers. A lot of these numbers are kind of extra fluff. That whole sentence about her telling you by 3 days she has this and 7 days she has this, that's not really going to go in our equation. What is going to go in our equation? Keywords. Per is the key word. Per day. Per is not the slope. What is the actual slope? What number goes next to per? So $5, which we'll just put a 5. We're not going to put money signs in there. Okay? So that's the slope. What does it mean? How much she saves per day. So y-intercept. How'd you know that?
Because it says she starts with $20.
She started with $20. That's our key word, that's the y-intercept, the starting amount, the initial amount. So $20 starts with 20. What's your slope-intercept form?
Y equals 5x plus 20.
Boom, boom. Not going to make you find the intercepts on that one. There's also no room on the paper. Okay, so you will have to do this on that third topic of your test. It's kind of about real world. It's about interpreting, okay? All right, let's brain break it for 2 minutes. A lot of really good stuff in here. But we're going to go to 5 and 6 because I want to kind of harp on these word problems, give a little more practice with that, okay? So that way you're good to get all the way through your Delta Math and you're good for this part 3 of the test, okay? You with me? All right, so here's the first story, number 5. You're given a graph. Honestly, this happens a lot on the STAR test. Everyone with me? Find hiking elevation. Find that graph. Are we there?
Yeah.
Are we there? Okay, so let's kind of just, when it comes to the real world stuff, slow your roll, Daniel. I want to really look at what X is representing, what Y is representing. Like, we got to think about this story. They didn't type out a whole story for us. But we can kind of make some inferences from this graph. So we're hiking. Our x is talking about our time in minutes. So do you see why time starts at 0? Because it's the real world. Does it make sense to have negative time?
No.
So we start at 0, and then we have an ending point. Okay, and then what is our y measuring? The height in feet. We also don't have negative y values because we're not going to have negative y's unless we're doing something like going underwater, and we're not. We're just talking about the height above the canyon floor, whatever that means, okay? So that's our story, all right? Rate of change. We need to calculate it. Let's talk about the meaning. So what do we need to do rate of change? What does rate of change mean? Slope. You might want to write that. How many points do you need?
2.
2 points. All right, let's grab 2 points. 2 pretty points. You know what I think I'm going to use here?
4, 2, it's all even numbers.
These numbers are kind of crazy.
It's all an even number.
I think I'm going to use my intercepts here. Yes, your y values and x values are counting not by ones, and they are kind of big numbers. Are y'all okay to use these?
Yeah.
The x and y intercept? With me? All right, let's put especially because this graph's kind of blurry. What is the y-intercept? Ordered pair. Ordered pair. 0, 360. Does this ask us for that? This table?
Yes.
Yeah? Ooh, what is it? What's the y-intercept?
Value.
That's the initial value. Let's fill that out. The initial value was 360. What does that mean?
Wires.
Starting value. Okay, relate it to the story. Star. I'm going to ask you to do this. So let's relate it to the story. What are we talking about? The hiker, are you with me? Starts how far above the canyon? 360 what? Feet above canyon. That's what I mean by meaning. What is the meaning of that? Take it back to the story. Use the number. Use the units. Interpret it. Okay? And it's always going to be like your starting, your initial, that type of thing. Okay? All right. Let's go ahead and do the x-intercept before we do the slope. I'm going out of order. Are we okay with that?
Yeah.
Which one of these is the x-intercept? Vocab. Root. We need to know all of those. What was our x-intercept here? Let's write it as an order pair up here on the graph. 18, 0. Okay, now let's talk about what that means in the story. What does it mean? Look at the units.
Time.
18 is the time. So it takes 18 minutes for what to happen?
To climb up
Get down.
To get down from the canyon. Okay, it takes 18 minutes to be back on the ground. Very good. Meaning, it takes 18 minutes to, I don't want to say land, but to be on ground. I don't know. Something like that. So do you see how I'm like taking the value in the units? That's kind of how I like interpret the meaning. The y-intercept, I need the y value and the units of the y value. That's what I started at. The x-intercept usually is kind of like when something's over. You've landed. You've paid off your debt. You've finished the race, that type of thing, okay? And so that's how long it takes because, again, this is an x value, and I use the x value units, okay? All right, now slope it. Now we're going to slope it and talk about that there. You've got your 2 points. We label x1, y1. Hey, get it together. x2, y2. You got test questions like this. We got to know how to interpret. There's like not really partial credit on these. It's right or it's wrong. I think I did too.
Maybe we'll give you a point for writing it down,
I think that's a good idea. I'll bring that up.
or a couple points.
You don't write it down, you don't get full credit, even if you get the right answer. Because I'm not messing around about that.
Oh, I'm stupid.
Don't say that. We can make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. But we're not going to say that about ourselves or about others. Okay? All right, slope. I got negative. Should I be getting a negative?
Yes.
Why?
Because it's going down.
Line's decreasing. Okay, so that makes sense. Okay, so meaning with the rate of change. So since this slope is negative, that's going to be the rate that we are descending. How fast are we descending?
360. 20 feet.
20 feet per minute. Feet per minute. So when you bring back those units, this is talking about feet, the change in your y. Okay, change in your y. This is talking about minutes. So we are descending at 20 feet per minute. Again, there's that key word, per. Key word always has to do with slope. So if you're writing the meaning of the slope, you better be writing per or each or every or something like that there. Okay? All right, final thing. What's our final blank? No, we did the initial value. I wrote it right there.
Slope intercept.
Slope intercept form. So how do I put everything together? Y equals, what's our slope?
Negative 20x
Negative 20x.
minus.
Is that a negative?
No.
So
Plus
plus 360. Very good. So this is really like, this is the end game, guys.
Then what would we do with the root then?
The root, that's a good question. The root is not anywhere in your slope intercept form. You can't see it in there. But we needed it to find the slope because we needed that other point, and then we also needed to be able to interpret that. But it doesn't like show up in this equation anywhere. Okay? All right, last problem. And then we're going to delta math it. Look at me, I'm going shopping for candy. Okay? For Halloween. This sounds perfect for my type of problem. I'm not running marathons, I'm buying candy. All right, I started with $50, and each bag of candy is $10 because inflation. I don't know if have y'all even looked at the prices of Halloween candy? It's insane. It's insane. Okay, I think $10 is honestly pretty easy. Find and interpret the following features. Okay, there's no graph here, so we got to interpret how to write this ourselves. Okay, so I started with how much money? What is that? The y-intercept, the initial value. Very good. So I started with 50. What does it mean? Exactly what I just said. Started with $50. Okay? We don't know the root. We're going to have to get the graph. Actually, we need to get the equation for that first. Okay? Rate of change. How'd you know? Each bag is 10. Okay? But am I earning $10 or am I spending $10? So what do we need to put in front of that? Negative 10. Okay? That's kind of tricky. So I start with my amount and then I'm spending. So what's happening to my total amount of money? It's going down. It's decreasing. So that's why this has to be negative. So what does this mean in the story? We spend $10 per bag. There's that word, per. Started. Those kind of keep coming back. So if you know that the rate has to do with per, the slope has to do with per, the y-intercept has to do with starting, initial, that is a really easy way to kind of weed out information. And if it's multiple choice, kind of help you eliminate answer choices there. All right, let's write the equation. Slope intercept form. Y equals
Negative 10x
negative 10x
plus 50.
plus 50. Very good. Okay, so depending on what you got, you kind of got to jump around in an order of how I fill out these answer blanks. We had a graph, so we were able to kind of find all the stuff and then build the equation. This, I had a story. I had to write my equation there. How do we find the root?
Take out the y.
What? Well, you don't take out the y. What do you put in place of y? A 0. Why do we do that? What is a root?
X-intercept.
It's an x-intercept, and what happens with x-intercepts? The y value is 0. Very good. All about making connections. I love that we can bring that information from last class. So I'm using this space right here. Y'all with me? I'm all over the place. So I'm going to put a 0 in for y. 0 equals negative 10x plus 50. And I got to solve for x. I want you to do it. You're going to have to do this on your test. Think about your steps. You subtract the 50 from both sides. What's 0 minus 50? Negative 50 equals negative 10x. What do you do to move away the negative 10?
You divide it.
What is negative 50 divided by negative 10?
Negative 5.
No, it's positive.
Positive 5. Negative divided by negative is a positive. So what's the root? 5. Okay?
10 was negative?
The slope was negative because we're spending. Yeah. Okay? All right, what does that mean? Let's graph it. Let's graph it and see how it goes. Okay? All right, we need to talk about the story. X is going to represent what? What does X stand for? That's our bags. Okay, so let's label right here. This is our bags. What is Y going to represent? The money that I have left. Money. So here's our money. Okay, we know our X and Y intercepts. Our y-intercept was 50. That's how much I started with. So let's count by fives here. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. You don't have to write all those numbers. I just put the fives. So I start with that. With our bags, we can count by ones because I only got to get to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's my root right there. Does this make sense why my slope was negative?
Yes.
What is my line doing?
Going down.
Going down.
It's going down. Okay? So, if you were to interpret, Nick, go to the bathroom. Just go to the bathroom and then just hang out there before you can come back in.
What do you mean?
I mean, go to the bathroom, get out, and then I'm going to come talk to you before you come back in.
Why?
We'll talk about that too. Leave. You have a ruler, hon. Use your ruler. Okay? So, here's my starting amount. I bought no candy bags and had how much money? $50. We already knew that. Oh, that's my starting. Now, what does the root mean? What does that mean? How many candy bags are we at? How much money do I have? 0. Okay, so how many bags can I actually buy? 5. So what does it mean? We run out of money after 5 bags. Oops, I put that in the wrong spot. Okay, that's how many bags I can buy. If I show up with 6, I'm not going to have enough money. I'm going to have to put back my least favorite. Okay? So that's how much I can do there. So interpreting these, again, you really got to look at what you're measuring, money and bags, when it comes to defining the meaning. Okay? So on your Delta Math, we should be able to get to 100% on Delta Math now. If you're behind, you're going to have some work to do. But we've got time. Okay? Let me just show you. This will work. Here we go. Algebra 1. I think we did pretty good getting done with slope. Intercepts are like kind of tricky from the equation, so I really want to make sure that we practice that. But then there's only 3 problems from today about interpreting. So I'm going to click on just the first one and kind of show you what they look like. They're star questions, okay? So don't just like guess. Actually read what it's talking about. Read what it's asking you to interpret. Which statement describes the rate of change? Oops, I didn't mean to move that. Rate of change. So you're describing the slope, okay? And then the other ones are going to be like describing intercepts and stuff. I think this one is which describes the x-intercept. This one is which describes the y-intercept, okay? And so those are pretty quick, but they're really, really good practice. So we need to be at 100%. If you finish that, you can keep working on this little guy. There's some graphs here, okay? But we know everything we need in this unit, and now we just got to review and test next week.